Hello, this is the resources module of the Code with Altino facilitators program. It is specifically for the resource leader and also possibly also for the principal to understand the type of resources required if you want to roll out the Code with Altino program throughout your school. That is to inspire all your students with technology and to ensure each of your students in your school know how to program a computer. Learning outcomes for this module: to understand how the Code with Altino program is resourced, to understand the responsibilities of the Altino resource leader, and to understand the role of teachers in preparing resources for each class. So refer to the table below for resource requirements for each program. So for example, you have the language programs across the top, and then you have each of the resources to the left. So for example, if your school is running a Scratch program, obviously you'll need your Altino robots, you'll need maze blocks, you run Scratch on an iPad or an Android tablet, and then you also need to download the Orchestra Lite app, and that's all covered in this facilitators program. For Crayon, it's the same thing. And for Python and C, which are all text-based languages, that's where your students will need laptops or PCs rather than an iPad or tablet. However, and if they do want to use the dynamic data, they will need to download the Orchestra Lite, and that's where they will need iPads or tablets. So what is an optimal number of robots you need for your school? To learn computer programming, the optimal way of working is one robot between two students, and those two students work as a team. The robots can then be transported to other classes, which is described in the later section of this module. If you only have a few robots, say 5, you could break your class up into 5 equal groups. Learning will be less optimal, as each student will not be actively programming themselves, learning by trial and error. Instead, the students will be learning more by observation. Students can also learn on their own, that is one robot per student. However, they will not gain the valuable insights from working collaboratively in teams. Teachers' resources. At the beginning of every module in the Code with Altino curriculum, teachers are provided with a classroom resources guide. It shows exactly what is required for each class. An example is given over the page from the module F2, Controlling the Lights of a Robot. It is a second module of the Scratch program for primary schools. The list is similar for each class, so let's have a look. So it shows the number of Altino robots, 1 to 2 per student. That's just the ideal number, as we've already talked about. Each student will need their own iPad or Android tablet or iPhone. Always need to be charged. Also with the robot, always need to be charged. That's important for the resource leader to look after that, and we'll talk about that. The blocks or the mazes, which are the plastic things just sit on the floor that you can get from us, or you can build your own if you like. Obviously the guide for each module, which is provided for you, and then of course the evaluation forms, 1 per student, and typically that might mean actually printouts of each of those evaluation forms, 1 per student. As shown in the text box, the actual guides for each module, the teacher may have this as a PDF file or PowerPoint file, it's up to them. The links are provided both, and the link to the internet is required in most modules. Just as we have clicked into internet resources during this facilitators program. So this is really for the resource leader, how to store and transport the robots. Due to their small size and compactness, the Altino robots can be transported to different classrooms. But do they need to be transported up and down stairs? It's something you may need to keep in mind. The robots also need to be stored in a secured location, say a lock-up cupboard. So we recommend purchasing a trolley like the one pictured below, perhaps from eBay. This trolley should fit all your robots for one classroom, and the baskets can be placed in a secure cupboard. It should also be easy for students to handle. We also recommend waiting for your robots to be delivered before you purchase a trolley so you can assess the size requirement of the trolley. It is also the responsibility of the resource leader to make sure the teachers know to store the robots in their boxes. Storing them on top of each other, not in boxes like we've seen some schools do, may compromise the integrity of the robot. Very important to always store them in their boxes when they're stored on top of each other. So the important issue of charging the robots. The resource leader will also need to identify the best way to charge the robots for each of the classes. The robots have 6 to 8 hours charge continuous use, depending on the AR sensor use. So if the classes are not using the sensors yet, you'll actually be able to have the robots for an 8-hour charge, which is quite fantastic for an educational robot. This means you can transfer them and use them for 3 to 4 classes per day. It takes 2.5 hours to fully recharge each battery. The teachers are reminded about this under teacher resources at the beginning of every module. The charging port is located at the top of the robot. If you don't know where this is, please don't hesitate to contact us and ask us. You may need to show the teachers how to charge their robots. Checking in with the teachers. The resource leader should also check in with teachers to make sure they have checked the resource list prior to each class. Also make sure the audio-visual equipment is ready for each class. That is, each module can be displayed on a projector, laptop, etc. And from this, the teacher can click on links and access the internet. And also, because so many of the videos have sound, that there is also sound operating with that internet link. Again, that's quite important. The teachers need to have sound operating on their internet links when they click into videos. And that's the end of this module. Thanks very much for listening.